Hi, welcome to day 3. What a week it's been, right? Oh my gosh. Congratulations on making it this far. I know some of us are having an easier time than others, and we're all facing different challenges, which is why I thought it was so important to take a moment to share some of the some of the tools and tricks that got me through extended periods of not feeling like I had control over my schedule. So before we go into the tip of the day, brain candy, I want to take a minute to acknowledge one thing, my earrings. Later tonight, I'm going to do a Facebook Live on my personal page talking about ADHD and homeschooling because right now I can't help but feel for parents who are already struggling a little bit with children who have ADHD like I do. I had to have been a disaster to grow up with, in all fairness. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how my mind works and offer a lifeline to kids or teenagers right now that are struggling, now having to be at home all the time with their parents who are probably not equipped for ADHD, much less for teaching a child with ADHD. So that'll come later. But this is one of the things that I use for my ADHD. A lot of us are highly receptive to sensory input. So ADHD is an issue of the mind. And we tend to think of it as a kid who just won't sit still. And yeah, that's definitely a component of the hyperactivity, but the H stands for hyperactivity in my brain, and how sometimes it can be really hard to turn off. And if ever I've been sitting somewhere and I've been fidgeting, what I've been doing is seeking the sensory input required in my body to stay focused the way other people do. At the same time, a lot of the things that I do to stay focused, the fidgeting type things like picking my nails, chewing my nails, moving my hands or bouncing my leg, can be very distracting to other people. And that's why we get in trouble for it. But if I don't do that, if I'm not doing that, odds are pretty good I'm not listening. So if I'm doing what you asked me to do physically, then you're not getting what you want from me mentally. So that's one of the things I'm going to talk about. If ever you see me with the big earrings, one of the reasons I wear them on my Sunday night live streams, the really long Q&As, it's essentially for that. It's to keep me focused on what I'm doing, because they're all clip-ons. And these are old earrings. I have a friend who does vintage jewelry. So all of these are from like the 1940s and 1950s. And these parts that dangle are fairly heavy. So these aren't the sort of things you would want to wear like all day, every day. But to get through a 1 or 2 hour broadcast so I can stay focused, the pressure on my ears replaces what I need to do with my fingernails or the bouncing of my legs so that it's not too distracting for the person who's watching. There you go. Something new, hopefully for you. Hence, that's why the earrings, but I'll be talking about that later tonight. Thank you, Sarah. I love these earrings too. They're one of my favorite pairs and they're relatively new. So that's why I wear the large earrings. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that and attention and focus and how to work with your ADHD child later tonight on my personal page. So what I want to talk about today is brain candy. So a lot of the things that we have been conditioned to do, the work that we're told is the good work, the right work, doesn't actually work for us. I talk in my work a lot about the distance that can exist between the right answer and the true answer, and how we have been conditioned to give the right answer no matter what. And we're rewarded for it, even if the right answer is a lie, and how that doesn't always work for us. Actually, matter of fact, it almost never works out well for us. It's a problem. So to that end, one of the things that we are encouraged to do, and that might not work for us all the time, is watching the news or consuming the news. I refer frequently to pseudo-intellectual bullshit, nonsense. The things like think of your college student who comes home thinking that like now they know everything and they don't want to listen to you anymore, and because they have discovered like Immanuel Kant, and Kant like were I don't know, like they read the Communist Manifesto and are now like determined that this is the way, and regardless, with no regard yet to the fact that a lot of these attempts to enact it in real life have not worked very well for anybody, or that systems can fail and that this is the difficulty of society. They have that one idea, it's the way, the only way, and it's a way that doesn't make sense. They sound like a child and they don't know it. That thing is what is pseudo intellectual nonsense. At the same time, we all gravitate toward the thing that makes us sound smart, even if it does not necessarily enhance our knowledge. Okay. And one of the things that makes us sound really smart is talking about the consumption of the news. Oh, I watch the news all the time, or at least this has been the way for a while. I used to work on Wall Street. For those of you who understand, like, that's just my template answer, because most people, unless you've been there, don't understand the difference between Wall Street and the local bank. For those of you who do, I was a global neutral agency broker working for Instinet, trading live markets in Hong Kong and Tokyo for 7 years. And in order to do that job, I had to sit in front of a Bloomberg terminal, a Reuters terminal, and 3 televisions playing news all the time. And the Reuters terminal and Bloomberg terminals just tick, 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 tick all day long with news. I consumed more news than most humans would. And so when I would say like on the weekends, the first thing what to do is I don't read news, I get smacked down by people who are like, well, I never stop reading the news. It's important I read the paper cover to cover. Like I'm personally assaulting them. And I'm like, my desire to unplug requires me to not watch the news. I'm not making a judgment on others, but there are a lot of people who are like, this is the way, the thing, this, and that's the pseudo intellectual nonsense of it. If the work isn't working for you, do you really need to do it? In the middle of those years, think about it. That was 2000 through 2007. Think about what those headlines would have been. The rise or fall of oil prices and what that's going to do to the financial markets, because every piece of news can relate to the financial markets, and I have to be ahead of that. The war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the Ebola, Zika, the Asian flu, any sort of, then there were SARS, there were multiple pandemics during that time. And all of the news was really overwhelming, but it was my job to read it, consume it, and synthesize it. I could not completely detach or unplug from it. So this is where brain candy comes in. I'm going to share with you right here 2 websites that I used to consume, still do. Yep, it's celebrity news. This is about the time I started really paying attention to gossip. Here's the other one. And I became familiar with the work of Anne Helen Peterson, who at the time was writing about celebrity gossip academic style. She was writing a graduate thesis towards a PhD on gossip, and how the way that we talk about other people, especially celebrities, reflects a lot about how we view and judge ourselves. So in the middle of every afternoon, I had to take a sanity break, and I would go usually read every single thing that those websites had published the day before. I would go outside for like 15 minutes, exhale, and, after reading about war, pandemic, and, devastation everywhere, crisis over here, presidential election, I just wanted to know who Brad Pitt was sleeping with. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I tell you that to tell you this. Right now, the news is overwhelming, and we have been in fatigue for a really long time. So this is me giving you permission to detach from the news. I promise you, we're so connected now that if something is really important, it's going to get to you. But reading the news, staying on top of it, is not necessarily going to make you more informed. It will make you more anxious. The news cycles have changed a lot since the years when we were younger, and that was drilled into us that this is the right answer, this is what smart people do, and therefore thou shalt do it too. Read the news, watch the news all the time, every single day. I don't, again, necessarily think that that's healthy right now. So I like that, Anna. I really do. I think it's important to take a minute. So here I'm going to put this up, and we're going to walk over to my nest. Because remember, day 1, we make the nest. And day 2, actually. I didn't do anything on day 1, sorry. Day 2, we made the nest. And day 3, you can see my view right now. We've got a snowstorm big 72-hour storm. So I come to my nest and I've got a better view than usual because I really like snow. It's cold, so I'm wearing my favorite cozy sweater, which feels like a hug. I've got my earrings, which is the sensory pressure on my ear. And I got my toe socks with the sticky pads on the bottom so I can walk around the house. And if I wasn't streaming right now, I would be on that website reading celebrity gossip, basically, even though some of it's snarky and I don't like everything that's written there, and I definitely don't read the comments. I go there to feel somewhat connected to something going on in the world that will not stress me out, and I might get to see what Brad Pitt's up to. Boy, things have changed since he took that trip with Angelina Jolie and when they were caught holding hands on a beach in Africa. Between then and today, 15 years changes things. But this is where I would be sitting with either my BlackBerry or my iPad, reading that website in my nest with the view that makes me happy, rain or shine. And this is where I would come to physically and mentally take a break from everything around me to do something other than the new routine downstairs, the stressful thing that I do. It's like, it is sort of like a timeout for your mind, your body, and your soul. So all of that underlies the very salient point that more news is not necessarily more better. It's not necessarily more information, and it's not necessarily the intellectual thing to do. You're not being bad or deficient or lazy if you decide to opt out of news most days. Again, we're so connected, so much more connected than we've ever been before. Think back to how gossip works. You will get a text. You will get an email. You will know what's going on in the world. If there's something really important to hear, if that information will make its way to you. In a time when you cannot avoid information, especially the information you don't necessarily want, you're going to get the important stuff too. It's not bad. Do what you need to do to preserve your sanity, conserve your energy, reserve your patience, and then serve up your best self to the people who need you most. You are coached. You are loved. Let's keep winning at life. I promise you, you actually are. Especially if you have a view like this, earrings like this, or just by being here. Guys, we have almost 630 people in this group. It's so wild. I started this 2 days ago. And I don't even know most of the people in there. Less than half of them are my Facebook friends. So good job. Keep sharing, keep going. I'm going to go live like this every day with a little snippet of anxiety relief and mental health management. All the other programming will be on top of it. Take what you want, disregard the rest. There's never pressure to consume. We just want to make sure that there's a little something each and every day for everyone, from the thread where we encourage everyone, the community, to meet each other and speak, to this, where I'm giving you permission and a tangible thing to do during the timeout. And the reassurance that's going to come from the big guns, Dahlia Kinsey, the school nutrition dietitian, and our sponsored athlete, Amy Trujillo, who is going to tell you that you are actually winning at distance learning and that most of the things you think you need to do are not accurate. She is an expert on distance learning nationwide. She does a lot of it. She's going to tell you all about it because I don't completely understand it. It just sounds really cool, and I know she's awesome. And you guys deserve nothing less right now. We're going to coach you. We're going to love you. And we're going to get through this together. Invite anyone who needs a little bit of that right now into this group. It is free and, as usual, open to the public. Thanks again. See you later.